Hannah. Yeah, well, good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for attending today. The power of iPad with a digital sustainable learning environment. Yeah, we're delighted to be joined by Hannah Croskery, who's a learning specialist for Shobi. I think the session today will run for about 30 minutes, 30 to 45 minutes, and then possibly we'll have some time for a Q&A at the end. I am on chat box mine, so if anybody has any questions as we're running through, then please feel free to put the questions down in the chat, and if we need to stop and kind of talk through your question, then that's not a problem, we could do that. So I suppose, Hannah, if you'd like to start with an introduction to yourself first, and then we can move on to why Shobi is the perfect match for iPad with a digital sustainable learning environment.
Oh, thank you very much, Matt. Hello, everybody. My name is Hannah Croskery, and that was Matt. I should have gone to that page first, sorry. So my name is Hannah Croskery. As Matt said, I'm a learning specialist. I've only been at Shobi for about a year and a half. Previous to that, I still am. I'm a teacher of 26 years experience, and for the past 10 years of those, I was a deputy head at a primary school in Dalton-in-Furness in Cumbria, which is where I live. We were an Apple Regional Training Centre and an Apple Distinguished School. And honestly, my passion and my enthusiasm for the transformation that iPad and Shobi can make to teachers, to learners, to the parents, to the whole school community, I think is probably unparalleled. And I think anyone that's met me would also agree, because it's one of my favourite subjects. And it's my favourite subject because I saw in my classroom the absolute power of iPad and Shobi, and it completely transformed our whole school, actually. And then since that happening, I've then worked with lots of schools up and down the country as one of the EdTech demonstrators to encourage other schools to find their feet with using technology in education and to realise the impact it can have, not only on the teachers' workloads, hallelujah for that, but also on the progress that children can make. So let's get started. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So Shobi Complete is what we're going to talk about today. And obviously I'm on my iPad. But if you don't know anything about Shobi, here it is. It's a digital learning app, and it was designed for iPad, and that's really key. It can be used on any device, but it was designed for an iPad, and it does allow educators to truly personalise teaching and learning. And if you think about the power that a teacher has in the classroom, the power that any support staff have in the classroom, it's really about understanding and knowing your children, knowing what they need, and knowing the steps that they're going to need to take to make that progress. So Shobi allows technology to really help with that. So personalising teaching and learning is absolutely key. Now, Shobi Complete is actually 3 different apps. We have Shobi, which is the teaching and learning front-facing classroom-based learning environment. We've got Socrative, which is basically kind of your quizzing app, but it allows you to actually assess your children minute by minute during the lesson and also at the end of a topic or a unit. And of course, we've got Explain Everything, which is the absolute magic that allows you to capture teachers teaching and actually also empowers students and children to showcase their learning too. So Explain Everything is super powerful. You'll hear me talk about the DNA of learning, and this is something that Shobi, whilst we've wanted to personalise teaching and learning, we've really looked at what is it that teachers need? What is it that teachers do every day? What is it that children do in nearly every lesson? And we've tried to really think about how technology, how Shobi specifically, can actually help with every single step of your teaching. So if you're a teacher watching this, these 4 building blocks will be all too familiar. You'll have done them all today, quite a few times. So the first one is direct instruction. You will have done some teaching today, and you'll be doing it again tomorrow, and you did lots of it last week. After you've done your teaching, you want the children to have some independent practice to make sure that they understand what you've just been teaching. And then you'll obviously give them some feedback. And then following that feedback, we then, at times during the lesson and at the end of a topic or unit, we'll do that integrated assessment. Well, we'll do the assessment, Shobi allows it to be integrated, okay? So as I'm going through what Shobi Complete can offer you, I'm going to be describing these 4 building blocks that really kind of encapsulate your learning environment and gives you the opportunity to use technology for all of this. And really what I want you to be thinking about is, what do your lessons look like? Because whether you teach reception children, whether you teach secondary school children, whether you teach sixth formers, the process of teaching, the cycle of teaching is always the same, okay? And what we really want to do is to make that really efficient, and everything that you do in the classroom be really effective. So Shobi, it's really important to note, is really kind of steeped in evidence-based research. So lots of you will be familiar with Ebbinghaus, and what he talks about is how once a teacher has done their teaching, the children will easily lose that memory. Okay, and if you think about what schools spend their money on, they spend their most money on their teaching staff and support staff. So actually, all of that knowledge is really what we want the children to remember. But Shobi offers us the ability to be able to capture it, which means that children can then access that learned knowledge, like it says here, reviewed time and time again. And that's known as the forgetting curve. So when we do some teaching, children have that memory right fresh in the front of their brain. But over the days and over time, that memory will be lost as other things come into play, as we do other bits of learning. So what Shobi really wants to do is to be able to harness and capture that essential information that teachers and support staff work so hard to deliver and to get across to the children. So with that in mind, what I want to do is go straight into Explain Everything. Now you'll remember that Explain Everything was the third of the apps, but this is the one I'm going to start with because this is where we really capture what the teacher is going to be teaching. So Explain Everything is, at its very basic level, is basically a digital whiteboard. So you can see here I've got my kind of lessons prepared. I've got Monday column edition, and what I've got here is I've got an embedded website. The next day is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So I've actually got ready the spaces that I want to use for my teaching. And all I need to do is, for example, go into, use this as my whiteboard. So I always talk about, normally in a classroom, you've got a whiteboard fixed to the wall. And you might say, right, children, today we're going to be doing column edition. So let's have a little look at imagining what this might look like. Let's do some column edition. And we've already done kind of the bits that we need to do, the building blocks to get to this point. And what I'm doing here is I'm saying to the children, right, first of all, we're going to add the ones, that's this column. Then we're going to add the tens column. So let's 4 add 3 is 7, and 3 add 2 is 5. So our answer is 57. And you can imagine the teachers that are watching, that's exactly what would happen in different ways. But then once the children are going to go and do their work, how much of that will be remembered? What I can do with Explain Everything is, you see down here, I can click on record. And if I was to record this, then all it's doing is it's recording my actions. I can actually zoom in and I can zoom out again, and I can carry on doing my teaching here. And I can do everything that I would normally do on a whiteboard, and I'm working with the children. But what it's doing down here is it's recording everything I'm saying. It would record the children's questions. It would record the banter I have with my support staff. And what it'll do is it will then capture that. If I press stop, it will capture that into a video, and I can scroll back and I can see here exactly where I've made all the marks in the annotations. And I can actually then share that, and I can share that straight into Shobi. The ability to be able to do that really is unparalleled. And I can actually just simply go up to the export button. I can export it. I can export it as a video. Click on export again, and I can just choose to put this straight into Shobi. So whilst I've done my teaching, I'm sending the children off to do their work. And I would have done this in year 2 because I was for the past sort of 10 years, I was in year 2. And you can see here that I can just go straight into Shobi here and drop that video straight in there for the children to access. The benefit of that is that the children have then, by the time they've opened their books to do any work, or they've opened their iPad, they can access the teaching I've just done. So whether or not they are just going to going to be sat in a table working independently, or whether they're going out with an intervention group maybe, or with a one-to-one person, they can always go back and re-watch, pause, discuss, watch again the teaching I've just delivered. And then what we're doing there is we are then smashing that forgetting curve. So the children are less likely to forget what my teaching has just been, because they've always got access to it. A wonderful thing about Explain Everything is you can see here, excuse me, I've got, you can embed websites, you can embed all kinds of files in Explain Everything. It's so clever and I really love it. So let's just pop into Shobi now. There's so much potential for Explain Everything. What I want to remind you of all today as you're watching is I'm giving you a really brief run through the higher level of what Shobi Complete can offer you and what it can bring to your classroom. What we're able to do along with JTRS is we're able to do this, do a similar demonstration with your SLT or your head teacher in a little bit more depth. So anything you see today isn't the be all and end all. Right, I'm going to nip into Shobi now and show you what Shobi looks like. So for those of you that haven't seen Shobi, excuse me, I think I've swallowed a frog. This is what Shobi looks like. And you can see down here, it's got my classes. This over here is the workspace. And I've also got access up here to groups and to individual students. So Shobi has really thought about what we as teachers need from an online learning platform or an online an app. What we want to be able to do is think about every aspect of our teaching. And obviously, the majority of our time is spent in lessons, in our classroom, doing our teaching. So you can see here that I've got a range of classes. I've even got staff meetings and I've got governors meetings in here. I've got a specific phonics class. But what I'm going to show you today is my Year 2 topic class. And this is a replica of what my Year 2 topic class would have looked like. I'm going to take you into a space folder. And I'm going to take you into a lesson that's about acrostic poems with a space theme. And so what you'll see here, I'm hoping, is how simple it is, because as the teacher, anything I want to be able to do within Shobi is either going to be in this spanner here, or is going to be in this plus button. So let me scroll down to the bottom. And what you'll see here is, you'll see here, well, actually, let's scroll to the top, because this would be an example of what I would have done in Explain Everything to set up my topic.
Okay, so when we're talking about space, which is our new topic, we're going to be thinking about, I wonder if you can guess. We're going to be talking about the planets. We're going
so this is my topic beginning of the lesson. Okay, and I've shown some websites and I might show them a worksheet they're going to do. But basically, once I put my video into Shobi, just like that, can then be accessed at any time. And look, I've pinned it to the top so that it's always there for everyone to access. If I scroll to the bottom, let me take you through, and you'll be able to imagine this, what a lesson might look like. So for example, once we've done our space topic, within Shobi, I've also got a basic digital whiteboard. So I can use this and write on this instead of writing on the whiteboard on my wall, which I would then have to rub out. So I can write within this space using these annotation tools at the top here. And when I click on done, that takes me back to my lesson. You can see I've got activity 1, and I've got a link here to a BBC bite-sized video about what a acrostic poem is. So at this point, I'm still doing my direct instruction. So think back to that DNA of learning, those building blocks. I've used Explain Everything. I've used the digital whiteboard, the create a document within Shobi. I'm now sharing a link to a BBC bite-sized video, and I can watch that with the children and click on done. I'm then talking about different examples of acrostic poems because I want some more discussion. So I've got one example here that we could talk about, and I've got another example here that we could talk about. Click on done. I'm hoping you can see that as I'm just dipping in and out, it's very simple. I'm just opening and then clicking on done. But you can see over here, look, I've actually sent this one to those 4 students, and I've sent this one to those 4 students. This one is for everyone to see. So when we've done our work in the groups, we can then come back and discuss example 3. And what this allows me to do is to basically differentiate my resources, get hold of that adaptive teaching and be able to adapt your lesson environment within Shobi to give the right resources to the right students at the right time. What I could have done here actually is I could have edited, select none, click on save and remove, and you can see now that no one can see this example. And that means I can then plan my lesson, but I can remove things so no one else can see them until I'm ready to show them. So for example, if I look at Jenny Bland over here, who's my first student, look, she can just see example 1. And if we go to Wilf Docker, he can only see example 2, okay? But as soon as I say, right, children, let's come back together and let's look at example 3, it's as easy as this. Edit, select all, save, and now everyone can see it. So I can say, right, everybody, let's look at example 3. And look, Jenny can now see example 1 and example 3. This is also of huge benefit because if you look at activity 1, activity 2, and then activity 3 and 4 is what we're going to do. But look, activity 5, 6, and 7 is all hidden because I don't want children to race ahead. And you can all imagine those children that would race ahead. I can imagine you've got names in your heads at the moment, thinking of those children that would race ahead and finish all the work. So let's then go back to, now we've all looked at the example of acrostic poems. We really understand what an acrostic poem is. Now let's go back to our space theme. So what do we know about space? And this looks very much like I would have done if I wanted the children to give me the ideas, and I'll just use a different color right then. So comets crash, I could say, look at that, children. Oh, wait a second, let me make that thick. Look at that, children. Comets and crash is alliterative. So that's a really good, they're really good words to put into your poem. Comets crash. So I can just use this as my digital whiteboard. And yet again, the children have access to that whenever they want it. Scrolling up here, you can see now what I've actually done is for activity 4 is I've given them another digital whiteboard and they're able to complete the first draft of their work directly onto Shobi. Okay. If I just click on done, what I want to show you is this, because now we're coming into the independent practice part of the building blocks of the DNA of learning. So I've given the children, we've done all my teaching now. I'm now giving them the independent practice. However, this activity 4 here, look, is actually
so
an
the
example.
First big task that you've got to do all by yourself
down a little
is
bit.
you need to
This is an
create
example
your
of me
or
actually
finish your
demonstrating
own
to the
poem.
children who need
So let
to
me turn my
see
camera off.
what I want them to do. So
And
I'm
let's go
using
to this
screen
space
recording
here, which is
feature
my
within
space
Shobi.
poem. So
And
all
this
you
is a
need to
video
do
now.
is
If I
remember
just
that
fast
you've
forward
got
it a little bit, you can see I'm modeling this piece of work now. So the children can listen and they can watch. Now, some children need this and some children don't.
my writing
but also,
as powerful as possible.
Here, these two little
and
boxes
if I was to
mean
write
that children can actually
planets,
tap on their piece of work whilst
do you think I could actually delete that
my video
and
down
think
at the
of a
bottom
good
here.
word to describe the planets?
So this is where direct instruction
so we could
actually
try
makes independent practice, and this is where we're able to support
planets,
the children more with a bit of scaffolding.
Get in
now
line,
then, if I just pause that video, what I also want to show you is the fact that normally in the classroom I would have written on the whiteboard all of those ideas, and not everybody can see them. But in Shobi, using the power of the iPad, I can use split view. I can go back into Shobi again, open up Shobi twice, go back into my lesson, just like this, and I can go back to that bit of teaching I did, or the collaborative thinking that we did, and now see here, I can zoom in and zoom out to check spellings if I want to. I can zoom in here, I can zoom in, and I can zoom out to complete the work. And I can still at the bottom
in a line, aren't they?
watch the modelling.
Okay, and so on and so forth. The children. Remembering that you...
Up here, oh, it's gone. Up here, we can see that the children can use any of these annotation tools to complete their work on here. They can use the pen tool. They can even use, they could use the speech bubble here, like this, and they might want to write, comets crash through the sky. Click on save. Now that needs to go down to the sea, obviously. They can also use the speech bubble, and they could just press record and say, planets fly around the sky, for example. Click on save and add that voice note in. So this is where the accessibility comes in, is Showbie is allowing children to add to their work in different ways. Some children might write, some children might type, and some children might record their voice notes. I'm just going to cancel that because it's taking a little while because of my dodgy Wi-Fi. So the children are using my direct instruction. They're also independently looking at what's being provided and doing the practice. Okay, now I'm just going to delete that because I've done that on MySpace. So then we come into the independent practice. Let me close that down as well. So when I click on done, what we'll notice now is I've actually used a whiteboard. I've used a digital whiteboard twice within Showbie. I've also then asked the children to complete their work on here. So if I go to one of the children and go to Jenny's poem, you'll be able to see that she's now used the pen tool to do this. And you can see that I've actually used voice notes, and I've used a comment, speech comment there to be able to mark it. And this is where we can get really personal, because of course, children would much rather hear my voice leaving them a voice note, wouldn't they? Than just the marking in a book. I think, you know, there's a real danger of marking in a book to just not be actually seen and really utilised. But what I've noticed is if I jump down to Wilf and notice the quick marking feature here, I can jump down to another child. You'll see that I've actually left a star on the step. I've got a comment back from Wilf here. I've left another comment to say great improvement. He's left me another comment. I've left a comment back. And this is one of my favourite things, particularly with the younger children that I taught, because the children love to hear my voice. They loved leaving me voice notes back. And it also demonstrated to parents, to SLT, to subject leaders, how personalised I was making that feedback and how quick and easy it was. Because if I just tap up here to Wilf, I can go back up to Mark. So I don't need to go out and come in again. And this is where the marking is really quick and really easy. Now, I can go up and down that list as I wish, but I can also tap on these little this little icon here to jump to a different piece of work from Jenny Bland. And it will take me to her piece of work that she's done, where she's actually now written her work up in her book. So obviously, Showbie is supporting that scaffolding of the lesson and creating that lesson environment, but handwriting is still important. Working books can still be important, but it means that I can mark it really easily, because one of the real passions of Showbie is about making feedback and assessment really easy, really to having high impact and having that real impact on progress. So when children know that actually they're writing for the audience of the teacher, and the teacher is really marking it in a personalised way, I think it becomes really powerful. Now then, what's also really powerful is that if I was to go down to Alan now, Showbie knows I want to mark that written work. So it's going to allow me now to write a comment. I'll leave an emoji. Well done, Alan. Super adjectives. Okay, so I'm able to really easily mark Alan's work, and then I can jump down to Wilf again and see his piece of work. So this is where the marking is made really easy. You'll also notice that up here, we've got other ways to mark the work. We're able to use the grade book, and this is alpha, emoji, and numerical as well. So if I wanted to, I could change that green heart. I could give him a 5 out of 5. Click on revise, and that's now a 5 out of 5. Well, you can just about see it there. I can also use this star here to put his work into a portfolio. And this is a really powerful way that parents can really easily see those steps of progress they make, be able to see them all in one place. Also really good for, I think, for SLT subject leaders to be able to see work really, really clearly. Now let me click on done, because what you'll be able to see is that, look, that just changed then from a green heart to 5 out of 5. Okay, so has anybody got any questions yet, Matt?
We had one question, Hannah, from Bibu, around pricing structure, and if they all fall under one kind of price. So I've covered that one for now.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
If there's any more.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Okay, so what I want to do now is we've had a look at the different ways we can do direct instruction. So that's using Explain Everything, that's using the digital whiteboard, and using screen recording. We've looked a little bit about the independent practice and being able to use split screen. We've looked at being able to use those differentiated resources as well. I just want to go up to the top here before I forget and show you what's actually available to you in your lesson environment. So this create document is exactly where we find our digital whiteboard. And if I just tap on here, you'll see that I can have a plain kind of screen. I can have lines, I can have squares, dots. You can even have a musical stage. And you can also have multiple pages too. So this way, this is how easy it is for you on the fly during your lesson, just to create yourself a space to write notes, to ask for ideas for that collaboration with the children's ideas, but also what's available to you on this plus sign is also available to the children. So think about maths and maths starting the lesson. Think about phonics and children who would normally write on a physical whiteboard. What we're trying to do here is we went through at my school so many whiteboard pens. We went through so many whiteboards. You know, and part of this webinar is to be thinking about the sustainability of using technology. So when in my class, in my year 2 class, we made the move from scrabbling around, finding different ways to organise the whiteboards and the whiteboard pens. When we moved on to the children either getting their own digital whiteboard or me providing them with some kind of frame or template to fill in, my lessons went a lot quicker and a lot easier. It also meant that I had evidence of all the children's work. Previous to that, we would have to, if I wanted to save someone's mini whiteboard work, we would go to the photocopier and make a mess of it. You're probably all laughing, thinking about the black marks that would be left on the photocopier. We didn't have that problem anymore because children are so easily able just to create their own sort of digital whiteboard within Showbie and not have to worry about the whiteboard pens. Okay, scanning documents is really easily, and also importing documents. If you're wondering how you're going to begin to create this learning environment, if you have all of your resources saved, for example, in an online drive somewhere, you can import anything from anywhere that's attached to your device. So we've got various options here where you can actually bring any documents in. The wonderful thing about Showbie is it supports any file type. It's one of the platforms that accepts, AR. It will support any of the Apple suites of apps. It will just anything. You can import anything, PDFs into Showbie, and it just works really easily. And as you're putting things in here with the plus sign, these 3 lines here mean that you can just reorder your lesson. So even if you're working through your lesson, remember you've forgotten to add something, you can really easily just move it around here like this. Okay, let's go back here. Much as we can leave the voice notes on top of the work, we can also leave voice notes here, and we can access the photo library and the camera, everything from this plus button. So if you're thinking about staff within your school that are either nervous about technology or reluctant to use technology, the reason I chose Showbie originally back in 2015 was because I felt it was the easiest to use. It was so simple, but it had lots of features that were really focused on teaching and learning. And I haven't come across anybody that struggled with using Showbie since then. Okay, we can see here we've got the grade as well, and we're shortly going to be moving into the quiz area. But this is just how simple it can be. We've also got different ways to scaffold your lesson, like I've already mentioned. We've got, share to know, and we've already been through that. And we also have a feature that's coming soon, which is, as we move into our assessment part of Show Be Complete, we are currently trialing some different some AI in different ways. And within your lesson, you can indeed create a really quick question, and it will be launched within this space here, and your children can answer your questions, because you know what it's like when you're doing your teaching and you want to make sure the children are all engaged. You want to make sure they're learning and they're going to be making progress. So being able to assess minute by minute within the lesson is really easy using this new tool that will be coming to you all soon. All I need to do is type my question in here, provide some choices, and then launch the question. Now then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the cross there. I'm going to whip over into Socrative, because this is where our assessment is going to be happening. Here we go. Here's Socrative. Socrative is also an app, but you can also use the web version. So although designed for an iPad, Showbie can be used on any device. Socrative can be used on any device, on the web version or on the app. And the two main things I generally talk about is being able to, for example, ask a really quick question just during the lesson. And what will happen is I can just say to everybody in the classroom, right, we've been learning about space. So the moon is made of cheese, true or false? And I can just invite my students here by this simple QR code. And the children can just raise their iPads, join the QR code, and then they can answer that question really quickly for me. And once they've all said false, I can move on. If anyone said true, obviously, I might need to go over that teaching again. But that's a really quick way just to make sure that everybody is engaged in the lesson and listening properly. You can also change to multiple choice. You can also ask a short answer. And actually asking a short answer question means that you can actually type the question in. You can require the student names. So one might say, what is the moon made of? Require student names and start. And what will happen is the children will then be able to type on their iPad or their device. They'll be able to type the answers. But look here, we can then delete the duplicates, and then we can start to vote. So it's this part, the short answer part of Socrative is really engaging and makes for really good discussions. Now then, the main part of Socrative is actually the ability to create a quiz. So, for example, in my Year 2 classroom, I created a quiz for Florence Nightingale, for the Great Fire of London, because the quizzes I already had, or the assessments I already had for English, maths and science were already set. What I was doing was creating quizzes and assessments for my foundation subjects. So you can see here, there's my Florence Nightingale one. We've done a Queen Elizabeth II one. We've got a planets one. But what I want to show you how easy it is, because this is my library of quizzes. You can also have a shared library here. So if you're either a school with multiple formentary children, you can have all of your same year groups in one shared library. If you're part of a multi-academy trust, you can have those shared libraries there, so you're not duplicating work. But if I want to add a quiz of my own, now I live in Cumbria, so what I could do is start with a blank quiz. But what we've just launched, if I just type in Cumbria here, what we've just launched is this AI feature, which is absolutely fantastic. And I love demo with this. It's where I could obviously add my own questions in, and the questions look like this. So they're super simple. I could just type my question in, type my answers in. I can put an image. I can use even formulas and links, and it's really, really clever. But the really clever bit is if I just delete that one, if I generate questions, I could just type in interesting facts about Cumbria, and I might just put key stage 1. Multiple choice, true, false, just 5 questions. Click on generate. And what this will do before I've even finished explaining it to you is the AI within Socrative will find me 5 questions all about Cumbria. I don't know where you all live. It'd be interesting to see if anybody else is from Cumbria, but it will find me 5 questions from Cumbria. But what it does is it gives me the ability, there it goes, I can still go into it and I can still check the facts. And if I want to, I can then add it in. I can then add in all of these and my quiz is done. But what I find really clever is if I want to, I can tap on the edit button there and I can then go and change. So if you want to really personalize this quiz, then you can do, or you can just leave it as it is. But that's your quiz done. Click on save and exit, and you've got a quiz there you can share with your children. Now, what you can do is you can launch the quiz from Socrative, but there it is. I can launch the quiz here. I have got lots of settings I can choose. I can have instant feedback. I can have open navigation or teacher paced. So depending on how you want your students or your children to answer the questions, I often use open navigation unless I know the children are going to just race ahead and not listen, in which case I often do teacher paced. I often just give them one attempt depending on which one you do. So depending on the delivery method will depend on what settings you're allowed. When you click on launch, this is what it looks like. And as you'll see the children's names down here as they're in it, the answers along here will pop up and you're able to toggle on and off all of these buttons here. So you can hide the names, you can hide the responses, and you can hide the results. Now this is doing it in Socrative. The real power, if you go back to the DNA of learning, is that Showbie offers you integrated assessment. And this is where it gets really special. Because if I go back into my Showbie and click on done, and let's just go back here. If I go back to space, you can see here I've got a topic quiz. And I've got the children down here. And I've got a little video here which shows you what it looks like when they are completing a quiz. You can see there the children's answers just popping up as they do them. So you get to see the live data as they're answering their questions. Okay. And then once we've done that, we can then, these 3 little dots here will allow you to distribute the scores and distribute reports. So what that looks like is the scores are distributed down here. So children can see exactly what they've got. But I need to just remind everyone they can't see each other's, because all the children see is their own stuff within Showbie and what the teacher has shared. But if I go to Jenny Bland, what you'll see is this is what the space quiz results look like. It's a PDF. Looks really professional, doesn't it? I think. And it tells them exactly what they got right and what they got wrong. So it means that you can either, if you've noticed the children have got all the same, if everyone's got number 3 wrong, then I would go and teach number 3 again, the content of number 3 again. Or I might say to the children, off you go, do the research, and then you answer the question correctly on here. You'll notice that up here it's got the score, and also this is being put into Jenny's portfolio. Let me just nip into the portfolio and show you what that looks like and show you why it's something that I really like. If I just go into here and I just type in Wilf Docker, he's got the most in his portfolio. This is actually the view that children see. So they will have their profile at the top and they can see the classes they're part of. This is also the view that parents can see if parents have signed up to Showbie and they're part of their children's Showbie account. Parents would also see this. And if parents have another child at the same school, they will have the next child down here. Makes it really easy. So let's pop into Wilf's portfolio, because what this shows, look, is all of Wilf's significant pieces of work since November 22. So I can see here, there's his space quiz results. So parents can see the progress that they've made or the achievements they've made in certain tests. They can also see, for example, look, here's the space poem that Wilf has done. So parents can really easily see the communication between myself and Wilf. And I think that's really special, because normally on parents' evening, we just used to have the parents look through the books. But this way, the parents are actually involved in their children's learning journey right from the get-go, and being able to see evidence of their learning like this in a very linear fashion, from when they've started using Shobi through the different years, I think is actually really powerful. We're nearly coming to the end. Just let me go back into Socrative and show you that when you go to the reports tab at the top, I can really easily see the report of all the quizzes that have happened. So there you go. I'll be able to see the reports and the results. And if I was to tap into, for example, let me just have a look at this one. What I can do is I can show the results and the names, and I can then export the results with an Excel spreadsheet, individual PDFs, a summary PDF, save to drive. So in terms of the integrated assessment, it's easy to create the assessments. The marking is done for you. The children don't even need to leave Shobi, and it will give you all the evidence you need and the results however you need it, and you're able to export it as well. So hopefully that is a really kind of quick run through Shobi Complete. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go back to the keynote, and I just want to remind you of the 3 acts we've looked at. We've looked at Shobi, which is where I've created my lesson environment for the children to access and for the teaching staff as well. And you've seen how parents can also access it. We've looked at Socrative for our integrated assessment. We've seen how easy it is using the AI feature, which I absolutely love. And we've been able to integrate that into Shobi. And we've looked very briefly at Explain Everything. Explain Everything could have a whole webinar on its own. We just used it basically to record our direct instruction, our teaching, and be able to save that teaching and put it straight into Shobi. The potential for Explain Everything is absolutely massive, where we can create templates and projects and all kinds of things in Explain Everything. It's really exciting. And this is the DNA of learning. These are the 4 building blocks to help you remember how Shobi Complete will help you with every step of your teaching. So if you go back to that lesson, how I've started my teaching and I've recorded it, I've been able to share evidence of my direct instruction with anybody within that class. The students and the children have different ways to complete that independent practice, particularly by using the recordings of my direct instruction. They're able to use a split screen on the iPad to be able to access those resources. The feedback I've been able to give has been really quick, has been efficient, has been personalised, and most of all, it's been really easy. I often talk about the days when I used to take piles of books home. It was a good feeling when I didn't have to take piles of books home. And then the integrated assessment kind of completes that cycle of learning. So I know now I can make essentially a data-driven decision on what I need to move on to next with my students, whether I've done quick questions during the lesson or I've done an end of topic assessment with the children. So hopefully that's given you a really good overview of the fantastic power of Shobi Complete. I hope you found that useful. I'm just going to hand back now to Matt, who's going to tell you about how to get in touch if you'd like to know more.
Yeah, thanks, Hannah. That was really insightful, and it scratched the surface, but there's so much more that you can do with Shobi, isn't there? And you can get so into each of the applications. We did have another question.
We did.
I think we covered it in the end, to be fair. Bibu asked, how do you get the connection to Socrative? But I think you went into it in the end there when you at the end of showing the Socrative. But I think, Bibu, if you still have any more questions, I can open the floor here if anybody wants to unmute themselves and
yeah,
fire away.
absolutely.
We've got a little bit of time. And then Sai, he messaged in as well, but he missed the beginning of the session, unfortunately. But we're going to send the recording out so that everybody can see this once it's done. But yeah, it doesn't look like anybody's gonna.
Any questions from anybody?
No, well, all I can say is thanks for your time again, and thanks to Hannah. A great run through Show We Complete there. If you'd like to know more about Showbie or Success with Apple program, then please do contact us. I think the email address was up for the moment, but yeah, we'll send out a message to everybody to say when the video is uploaded to our channel. And yeah, true, if there's nothing else, then thank you very much for attending.
Thanks, Leslie, for that lovely message. Leslie just said thank you. Thank you. Goodbye, everybody. Really nice of you to join us. Thank you.